There's a really good story I want to share about Bruce Lee. All right, so supposedly Bruce Lee and a friend of his were chatting outside of a gym one time, and suddenly this huge bodybuilder walked out of the gym. And then Bruce's friend said, "Whoa, did you see the size of that guy's arms?" And Bruce's response was, "Yeah, he's got big muscles, but can he use them?" And I love that story because it perfectly summarizes the importance of functional training. And that brings me to this inherent flaw with calisthenics. Now, you guys know I love bodyweight exercise. I practically make every video on my channel about it. But here's the thing, even though calisthenics is highly functional because you're supporting your own body weight against gravity, there is this inherent flaw where all of the basics are in one single plane of movement. And that plane is called the sagittal plane. You can think of sagittal plane movement as being like back to front, like this plane of movement. So if we look at the basics, like push-ups, that's in the sagittal plane. Also pull-ups, sagittal plane. Dips, also sagittal plane. Squats, sagittal. Lunges, sagittal. Leg raises, sagittal. See, they're all in the sagittal plane of movement, and there's nothing wrong with that. Tons of exercises and all these different domains of fitness, all the different modalities are in this plane. But there's two other planes of movement, okay? The frontal plane and the transverse plane. I'll explain what they are, but just understand that if you want your calisthenics to be more functional, the first thing I recommend doing is just taking a look at your routine and seeing if you can add at least one exercise from the frontal plane of movement and also the transverse plane, okay? So frontal plane movement is, if you imagine like a pane of glass here, there's actually a pane of glass right behind the camera, which is kind of funny, but imagine I'm talking to you through a window, right? There's a pane of glass here. So any movement in that pane of glass, like this, like abduction, right? Abduction of the arms and legs, that's going to be frontal plane movement. So a great example in calisthenics is good old jumping jacks. That is frontal plane. Also archer squats and side lunges. And if you pick up some bands, which I consider part of calisthenics because bands are very cheap and you can take them anywhere, well, you can do side delt raises, for example. That's going to be frontal plane movement. Any kind of leg, hip abduction, like side leg raises, that's also frontal plane movement. So just trying to get one of those exercises into your routine, be moving in that side-to-side plane, that's the frontal plane. And now let's take a look at the transverse plane. Now transverse means rotation. So anything where you're rotating your spine is transverse plane movement. So you can add this to a lot of things. Just for example, like push-ups or planks, right? So at the top of a push-up, just add a trunk rotation and reach up. That's a great way to make your push-ups more functional. You're adding transverse plane movement, plus at the top, when you lift that arm up, you're on 3 limbs instead of 4, so that's gonna engage a lot more stabilizers at the top of the movement. But there's other ways to do transverse plane movements, right? You can add a trunk rotation at the bottom of a lunge. That's another favorite of mine. I love adding that at the bottom of a lunge. You can add a trunk rotation at the top of a squat as well. I've shown that in other videos. You can do hanging leg raises where you twist and you lift your legs to the side. That's transverse plane. There's so many ways to do it. So just take a look at your routine and say, okay, are these all sagittal plane? And if so, how can I add just one frontal plane and one transverse plane? That will go a long way in making your exercises more functional. And what that means really is it's going to apply more to daily life, because in daily life, you don't just, move back to front, right? We turn, we twist, we reach, we do all kinds of things. And it's just really going to help to have all 3 planes of movement. Now, the second recommendation I have is to use gymnastics rings. You're engaging these really deep stabilizers that you just can't get all of those engaged when you're using bars. This especially applies to exercises above the rings, like support holds, dips, L-sits, muscle ups, and so on. So if you have rings, use them. Just by engaging those deep stabilizers on rings and working on any unstable surface, whether it's rings or a BOSU or whatever, that's going to be more functional. It's going to help you more with daily life. And then I do have a third recommendation, although some people might disagree with this, but play. Play is incredible. And what I mean by play is to just have fun and experiment with your workouts. So for example, if you're doing an upper body workout, well, you can spend the first half of it, like 20 minutes, whatever, just doing a lot of hanging on a bar. And when you're hanging, experiment with it. See, like, okay, I can hang pronated, I can hang with a supinated grip, I can switch grips while I'm hanging, I can do a bent arm hang at the top position and see the different ways you can engage full tension throughout your body as you're hanging, right? There's so many things you can do just hanging on a bar. And if you spend, 15 or 20 minutes playing with that includes rest times, by the way. I'm not saying to hang for 20 minutes straight, but like just a chunk of your workout is just spent playing around on a bar like that. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so functional. You're gonna do movements that you typically wouldn't do in your workouts. And then in that same upper body workout, you could do the same thing with planks, right? Experiment with all the different planks and just mess around, have fun. That's what I mean by play. There's no program to follow. And that's why I said some people might disagree, right? Because if you have a specific goal you're working towards and you just start playing around for your workout, well, that's gonna take you off course. So I get it. But sometimes it's good for your mind. It's good for that mental break to just do something different. And when you play around like that, it's gonna make your workout just way more functional than it has been. Because chances are, if you've been following a strict routine and not branching out, you've probably been spending a lot of time in that sagittal plane. Oh, and part of play is definitely primal movement. I've made a couple videos about primal movement. It's just a form of body weight exercise where you're on all fours. It's quadrupedal movement. You do it pronated, you also do it supinated, so you're like facing the ground and facing the ceiling and just doing different styles of crawling and things on the ground. It's a lot of fun. It's really good core work and it's highly functional. So check out primal movement and try that if you haven't already. All right, guys, that's how you can make your body weight exercise more functional. Like I said, it already is, but sometimes we get caught up in the basics with the sagittal plane all the time, and I just wanted to mention this because I think it's really important. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so every time I upload a video, you know I did. And yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you want to see more of on the channel? All right, I'm gonna be putting out more videos now that the weather's warming up, and I would love to hear what you guys want to see. All right, till next time, have fun training, and I'll see you then.